Are you able to get out shooting at all in amongst all of your training, or even picking up? What
Yeah.
balance are you around the garden training the dogs, and what are you able to sort of get out in the field with them?
So I used to do a lot out on the shoots, like either out shooting or work or out picking up and beating and things. Um, I slightly sort of, I slightly let my team have that, as it were, because that's fun. That's really, everyone loves doing that. Like putting all the work in throughout the year and then in September, October, November, December, whatever, going out on the shoot with a really lovely team of dogs that you've created. So the guys that work for me get out, once a week, once or twice a week kind of thing. And I tend to just go out when I'm going shooting. So maybe invited by a friend or a client or something that I've organized or whatever. And I tend to just sort of, I do that bit and I'll still take a team of dogs. So I have this sort of, excuse me. I'll take a team of dogs. So I have this sort of head knock with my wife as anyone does. Oh, I'm going shooting at a weekend, and she's like, "Well, you were off shooting." I was like, "Yeah, but I took 9 dogs with me. Like 8 of them were dogs in for training. Like those 8 dogs needed to go out on a shoot. Like, yeah, I had fun doing it, but I have fun every day. Like that's the joy of my. I mean, I call it a job. It's not really a job. We're having a laugh about this the other day. Come on to that in a second. But it's not really. That's my everyday. I'm going out with dogs. I'm walking dogs. I'm messing around with dogs. It's like, yeah. So I go out on a shoot, but I'm there often with clients, or potential clients, and I'm there with dogs that I'm working with. It's very, very rare. Like, I don't think it happened last season where I go out with just maybe 3 of my own dogs, and I just have a nice day where I just tune out and relax. There's always an ulterior motive because that's just the way my brain works. I mean, my wife and I would be going out to dinner and I'll be like, we need to leave 15 minutes early because we're dropping a dog on the way. And she's like, okay, I mean, it makes it a tax deductible dinner party, but basically that's how my mind's working all the time. Always like, oh, I could take that dog and drop that off on the way, or I'll collect that dog from here on my way back from there or whatever. So if I'm on a shoot, I wouldn't just, it's very hard for me to go there and I'm always thinking, oh, I could have that dog with me because that dog could just do with an extra day out or whatever. So I do get out maybe a dozen times a year. And then we are just immediately around our sort of little farm and kennels and stuff. We're always, we're always doing stuff with game and things. We're there's bits and bobs going on all the time in terms of just little rough days and stuff like that.
So how many? So in all of your years of shooting, what's the most amount of dogs that you've had with you sitting on peg?
16.
16.
And the reason I know it is because it's 16 because I remember the day because they did it on purpose. It was a group of friends. It was a group of friends on one of our friends' sort of family farm, and it became a sort of running joke. The longer I did this for, the more dogs I kept turning up with. Because when I first did it, I'd maybe come with 3 or 4, and everyone was like, "Wow, Charlie's got 3 or 4 dogs behaving." And then it became 5 or 6. Then I regularly went picking up with a dozen dogs, and I had the privilege of picking up quite regularly for probably one of the most famous families in the world. And if not the most famous in the world. And I used to be called. He used to call me. The boss used to call me the dog carpet guy, because basically my dogs just look like a carpet. We just hoovered up over his grouse moor. We just sort of we just hoovered up at the back of everybody. And I used to get this. Oh, Charlie, could you just come over here? I just need you to head over there, because there's something to be picked or whatever. And that was always, regularly 12 plus dogs. But this one particular shoot, I took 16 just because I was like, well, it's a mate shoot. We're only going to see about 10 pheasants. And it was just a bit of banter. And what I ended up doing was having some of them with me. And then I went and sat one on everyone else's peg. then I backgunned. I then stood behind and they sat on everyone else's peg. And actually, to give some of my friends due who are quite sort of doggy orientated, and a couple of them have got dogs, sort of descendants of my dogs and things now. they were like great, and they would then start working the dog at the end of the shoot and got their dog to pick up and things. So most of them, the dogs just came off back to me, and but it was quite a funny. But it was sort of predated iPhones and things, so there wasn't any video footage, or it was just sort of something it's just something that will be in my memory, I guess.
Do you think it's a shame with the amount of people who now head out without a dog on a shooting day, especially on sort of the pay to shoot days? No one's bringing a dog because no one wants to hassle the dog. And it's often lamented in the field sports media about the fact that the amount of dogs that people have on a shoot really is deteriorating.
Yeah, I think it's a real shame because, you know, obviously I've seen so much. I mean, I've had so many people who I've trained dogs for who got a dog to accompany them on a shoot and then became someone who went shooting because they wanted to take their dog. Does that make sense? So they transfer from a shooting person to a dog person, and they would quite happily put their gun down and just go and work their dog. And so I think people who are only going out on a shoot, not taking a dog because they think it's a hassle, are missing out on at least 50% of the joy of going out on a day. I guess it's a hassle because people buy a dog and don't train it and then it doesn't work. And I think people are pretty short-sighted in that way. And so, you know, my answer is give me a shout and I'll sell you a trained one. It'll be more enjoyable. But I think the sort of the mindset of the people who are running shoots and going to shoots, maybe there's definitely like a mismatch. I see a lot of people who go to a shoot with a dog and they get really annoyed because there is no organization and there's no kind of, this is what is right and this is what is allowed, this is how we run it. In terms of, you know, they turn around at the end of the drive and there aren't any birds to pick. And the pickers up are like, well, we're here to work our dogs, and the guns should be shooting the birds. And they're like, well, they're here to... And my view is, if the guys, whoever the guys are, if they're either, or girls, but whoever the people are who are paying to be there, or someone is paying. So, you know, that's the basis of it. Whether you're paying or whether your mate is paying or whether it's your mate owns the shoot or whatever, someone is scratching out a check for this pretty expensive hobby. So my view is if the person who is either paying or being paid for wants to come along, count daisies, and just work his dog most of the day, that's his call. And that is nothing to do with the pickers up or the keeper. That's between him and his host. And if his host finds it annoying, he won't invite him back. But it's his deal. And I think for pickers up to stand at the back and kind of go, oh, he should be concentrating on his shooting. It's like, he should be doing just what he likes. You know, a waiter in a restaurant who brings you out a lovely sort of filet mignon, you know, steak, you know, like a beautiful bit of steak or, you know, whatever. It's not for him to say, are you not going to finish it? And then start finishing your steak for you. It's up to you. You've paid for it. Yeah, it's a bloody waste. And it's not what they would do, but that's got nothing to do with them. And I think it's a real shame because I think with a little bit of leadership from the owner of the shoot and the head keeper, it could all just be organized in a way that everybody was happy. And we ran a really lovely shoot with a friend next door to us here for a number of years. And it was just so simple. And there was just simple rules. If a gun's got a dog, don't pick up his birds, just pick up his wounded ones. And then at the end, go and sweep up behind anyway, just to make sure they haven't missed anything. Even if a gun hasn't got a dog, don't pick up things around their feet, because it's bloody off-putting if you're standing there with a gun and a dog's running around your feet and a guy's at the back going, Ben, come here, Ben, come here. It's like, oh God, I'm trying to concentrate. I'm not good enough to concentrate on that and concentrate on not stepping on the dog and concentrate on not listening to the guy whistling behind me. And I think it's just like anything. It's just sort of, and I'm sure I get lynched for saying it's sort of lack of training and people just sort of turning up and watching what other people do, and the other people that do it don't run it in, you know, don't know how to do it. And it's like how you walk between drives carrying your gun. You know, there's a way you do it, and you learn how to do it because someone else tells you. But you can see people who haven't learned the same way, not doing it in the way. And I'm like, oh God, could you break your gun, or could you put it in a sleeve or whatever? And they're like, oh, it's unloaded. I'm like, well, I don't know that. So there's just a sort of a lack of training, I guess. And I think it's it puts people off taking a dog because they're like, well, I take my dog and I don't get to do anything, so it's a bit of a waste of time, but frustrating for the dog. And I think there's a huge market for people who, people who are sort of struggling to sell day shooting, and that, or not necessarily struggling, but they're trying to make themselves different from everyone else. I mean, there's an easy solution to me, and that is we are the Guns dog friendly shoot. Turn up to our shoot with your dog. Our pickers up will do their job, but quietly, effectively, without bothering you. And then you'll have a team of pickers up who want to control their dogs and not just have them running around everywhere. And I think there's definitely a big market for that, because I would be one of those people to go. I would enjoy that, and I've fallen out with pickers up over the years a couple of times when I've been a gun, and also when I've been another picker up, and I've clearly seen the gun getting frustrated, and I've seen people asking the pickers up not to pick up their birds very politely at the beginning of the day, and then not getting a response from it. And then it's like, well, it's just extraordinary. And it's like, we're all going to be in this together. So to kind of like run it like that is, it's kind of, difficult. And then from the gun doggy side of you, there's also a different angle. There's like, we're not the dog friendly shoot. Don't bring your dog, because our pickers up don't get paid. They actually pay to be here because they're training their dogs. And they can then do precisely what they like. And the guns get a cheaper day or something because the pickers up it's more like a training day. So, there's lots of angles. And I think people need to, like everything, I said a minute ago, you need to innovate or evaporate. And I think there's a huge call for that. And it's on my list of things that I've got, I've just got too big a list at the moment. And that's probably the one that definitely won't make any money kind of thing. But otherwise, that would be on my list of, I want to have my own shoot again that I run on that basis.